victims, assassinations, really. First of all, Charlie Kirk, and now this incident here in Dallas in the last couple of days. So we're chatting with our good friend, Frank Burke up in Wisconsin. Frank, welcome. It's always great to have you.
Thank you, Sylvia. It's always great to be here.
You know what I'm always going to ask you. How's the weather?
The weather is outstanding right now. It's in the low 70s, bright sunshine, just a cool breeze, and we're thinking about having a fire out in the yard tonight.
Oh my gosh, that is nice.
Fall is a little late. Let me put it that way.
For you, it is. For us, I don't think it's even started yet. Although they're talking about some temperatures dropping this weekend, so hopefully a little bit of fall is coming. But
we're supposed to be 80 on Sunday, and that's way too warm.
Yeah, that's way too warm. That is not Wisconsin in almost October. Not the Wisconsin I remember, at least.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, some very serious things going on, Frank. You know, these political crimes, really political assassinations. You have Charlie Kirk, and now you have the incident here in Dallas where somebody shoots into an ICE facility, actually ends up killing a couple of detainees, or killing one, I guess, injuring two, and then kills himself. And this goes on, and a lot of people are wondering what's going on. So tell me, when you heard about Charlie Kirk, and then, not too much later hear about what happened here in Dallas at the ICE location, what were you thinking? What were some of the thoughts when you were hearing about all of this, Frank?
Well, of course, I'm shocked at the fact that, but not really, that it's young people who are doing this.
Yes.
And you always try and look for a reason, whether you're right or not. But one of the things, this is typical of older people talking about the younger generation, but I think it is especially relevant in this generation. And that is, there is a tremendous amount of immaturity among younger people, many younger people. I won't say all, but I'll say many. And I think that is compounded by a number of things. One of them, as you've mentioned before, is the people in authority in the government talking all this Nazi talk and Gestapo, and trying to position the Trump administration as radical dictatorship that they are taking over. The second thing that I think you've got going is the fact that many of them, do not know history.
Right.
The educational system has failed. A third thing, and I think this is very relevant, is video games. Many years ago, when these things were really getting popular, and there were a number of crimes that seemed to be somewhat affiliated, a columnist made the comment, in a video game, you're always going to lose. Ultimately, that's how well did you do before you lost? But you just press the button and you come back to life.
Right.
And but the next thing, and I think maybe one of the most relevant, and it relates to the video games and the immaturity and what's going on, is the fact that you're dealing with a group of people on the radical left who, as in a video game, are preaching and propounding things that are nonsense, that are fantasy, just as a video game is fantasy.
Right.
They're saying men can become women,
right?
Women can become men can have babies, etc., etc. These are fantasies, and they're being sold as the real thing.
Right. Well, like in the case of the Charlie Kirk, the accused killer, that he was having a relationship with another man who was transitioning to female.
Right.
As if that's possible.
Well, not to mention the fact that, one of the more recent school shooters was that way, and wrote a manifesto that the police have never, ever revealed.
Right. That's the one in Nashville, I believe.
Yeah. I believe,
that was the case of a woman who was transitioning to being a man. But yeah, that's a real problem, because when when someone believes, when a man believes that he can transition to become a woman, I mean, that is just a lie. I
Right.
mean, I'm a complete lie. Now, you can have a man who is feminized,
Mhm.
like, a man who wants to dress as a woman or whatever. Okay, that's one thing
Right.
that you can do, and you're still a man. But this whole idea that you're going to be somehow technology can take a man and turn him into a woman. I mean, that's just crazy. But
Of
that
course.
is what they believe. You're right. That is what they believe. And then the case in Minneapolis, I think that was the case of a young man who was all confused about that,
Yes.
who maybe was taking it out on the Catholic Church because he saw in the Catholic Church a symbol or an organization that was opposed to the whole trans lifestyle. So he said, I'm going to go out and kill some
Mhm.
people there because I hate the Catholic Church position on this issue, and so on. But you've got these young men, and that's what worries me more than anything else. You have these young men who are being radicalized into believing that they can do these things, and that, like with ICE, that ICE is Gestapo and all of this. So you take young men who are weak mentally, who don't have a lot of history or whatever, and you tell these people through social media that ICE is terrible and this is a threat to democracy and there's not going to be elections next time. By the way, I'm simply repeating what the governor of
Right.
California
Right.
said. This is not some wacko in the Democrat Party who's saying this.
I might
And
take issue with that.
yeah, well, he is a
He
wacko
is.
maybe, but what I'm saying is you expect a little bit more of the governor of California to say something like, there may not be elections in 2028. I mean,
Right.
come on. I mean, we had elections in the middle of the Civil War, in the middle of World War II.
Mhm.
I mean, what is he thinking? So, but that's the kind of thing that you put that in the minds of a young person who's already a little bit unstable,
Mhm.
and then you somehow persuade him that if they go out and commit this crime, they're going to be heroes. They're going to be remembered by history as the big heroes. I think, Frank, without being an expert in criminal behavior or psychology or whatever, I think that's one of the reasons that they leave these bullets, just
Yes.
to, maybe that's part of what they're supposed to do, Frank.
Well, this is, if you think about it, the most popular movies for the last few years have been superhero movies, where the average guy turns into something happens, he turns into a superhero.
Right.
And go back to our time. Remember the Lone Ranger?
Yes, of
He always
course.
left a silver bullet.
Right. That's right.
And it's, this is the calling card. And
Right.
the bottom line is that when you deal with the left, one of the most obvious things that the left is involved with is what's called virtue signaling.
Mm-hmm.
And I would transfer it as self-aggrandizement, or because what you're trying to do is say, look at how good I am.
Right.
I'm a terrific person. I
Mm-hmm.
care. I care about the climate.
Right.
I care about the ones who are coming over the border. And they don't, because the people who are saying this and who are being broadcast, for the most part, are very wealthy people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're above it all. They can say, oh, I really do care about the homeless, but you won't find them on my street
No.
because I live in a gated community.
Right. And the same with security.
Yeah,
I mean, they're preaching about gun control, but they all have protection of
armed guards.
guards and all of that. So I mean, I think that's another point. But I just think that what worries me most is these young men who are gradually being turned into these little monsters, and you don't know where the next one is.
Yeah,
That's the thing that worries me more than anything else. You have no idea. I mean, I'm sure, I hate to put it this way, but I'm sure there's another one out there who is planning his own time, when he's going to
absolutely.
do it. And that's scary. I mean, that's scary
Yes.
for everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And that's that concerns me the most. I mean, clearly you have some irresponsible Democrat politicians who are sort of setting the table
Yes.
with these idiotic statements about ICE, and whether they understand or not the impact that these statements have. I guess it doesn't matter because it is impacting people. And this young man here in Dallas was completely consumed with
Yes.
hatred of ICE. Now, so I asked myself a simple question, Bill. I mean, excuse me, Frank. I asked myself a simple question. How does a 29-year-old kid growing up in Texas and Oklahoma, I guess he spent some time up there, where does he get this? I mean, who teaches him to hate ICE? That doesn't seem normal.
Because he's not living in Texas or Oklahoma. In his head,
Right.
he's living in a fantasy world. And it's not all the tragedy is it's not entirely fantasy because I'll take you back to the governor of California. You want to go out to California? If you steal, you can break into a store and take merchandise up to $1,000 and you won't really be prosecuted.
Right.
You go to New York, they're closing up the jails. They're letting people go. Well, so you're creating this impression that, well, if I do it, I mean, maybe I want to be a hero, I'll kill myself, but just in case I don't, I'm going to get away with it.
Right. Well, that's interesting too. That's interesting too.
I'm
But
going to be Luigi Mangione.
yes,
I'm
that's
going
right.
to I'm going to impress the girls. They're going to send me pictures.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because he's probably never had more attention from girls before in his life
Right.
than he does now. I mean, there's girls out there marching on his defense. Here's a guy who killed somebody with a gun from behind. You know, the most cowardly thing that you can do. I mean, you're a coward when you shoot somebody like that from behind, and he's being treated like some kind of Robin Hood.
Yeah.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing. But what I think is just continues to puzzle me is you take these young people. I mean, even the one with Charlie Kirk, the one in Minneapolis, the one here in Dallas, and you go back 3 or 4 years, and these were just normal people.
Yes.
Living in the suburbs. I mean, the guy in Utah, his mom or his dad is a police officer, I understand.
Yeah.
And his mom, I think, was a social worker. He was growing up, you know, in a fairly conservative part of Utah. And then all of a sudden he breaks and he becomes this guy who's running around, you know, obsessed with Charlie Kirk because he wants to save the world, I guess, or whatever. It just scares me that we're producing these people because, as I said before, I'm not trying to be overly dramatic, but I don't know where the next one is. And I don't know any way that we can find out where the next one is.
Right. Right. And I think that, you know, when you look at it, there are things happening, as they say, for every Newton's third law, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. And when I see what's happening on the right, now, I know you're a religious person, and I consider myself, I believe in God, go to church, whatever. But when Charlie Kirk was killed, and you have this tremendous religious revival that a lot of people are saying, isn't that wonderful? I'm going to be honest with you, it scares me. And it scares me for a couple of reasons. Because it's not based entirely, I don't want to judge everybody, and I'm not talking about everybody. There are many sincere people. But a lot of it is not based on faith and, well, really, I studied this and I think this is the truth. It's based on raw emotionality.
Right, right.
And it's very, very hard to deal with people who believe they are on a long distance line connected to God Almighty.
Mm-hmm.
And there's nothing you can tell them.
Right. That's a very good point because you've had all these people all of a sudden, you know, churches are filled with people, they say.
Yes.
Now I have to confess that at our church on Sunday, I didn't detect, and I'm one of the ushers. So if there's too many people, I know. And it seemed like a normal crowd.
Same here. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, just a normal attendance for
a lot
Sunday.
Of gray hair here.
Yeah. So I didn't see that, at least in our church, or at least in our mass. I don't know if some of the other masses had larger audience. But I guess I am worried with when people act impulsively and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden become religious. That is a good point. But one of the things that worries me a little bit about these young people is that if you listen to their stories when they do these profiles, they're all very lonely people.
Yes.
Their only connection to anything is social media, and that's what,
Mhm.
like you say, they live in these fantasy worlds. And there doesn't seem to be anybody in their lives who pulls them out.
Mhm.
And I don't know if I'm being fair here or unfair in what I'm saying because I'm judging people that I don't know. But I know that in our family, if somebody kind of like gets lost, somebody goes out and finds them.
Mhm.
And, like if all of a sudden you don't hear from, I don't know, like if I don't hear from my sister in 2 weeks, I call her and I say, hey, is everything okay? And
Right.
she does the same thing with me.
Yeah.
And when my mother was alive, she was like the Secretary of Communications. She had everybody informed
Mhm.
of everything. In fact, when we were doing the memorial for my mother, I said, we have to have somebody replace my mother in terms of who's going to be the new Secretary of Communication,
Yes.
because my mother was on top of everything. She would call me on the phone and say, your brother's daughter, or my niece, let's say, is not feeling well today. Now, my mother knew all those little details. And, and it seems like these young people don't have that. They don't seem to have that family member who cares about them, I should say. They live alone. They have their own lives. Maybe they see their moms for Thanksgiving or their dads for Thanksgiving, but they don't have too much more than that. And I think that contributes to the loneliness. I don't know if I'm being too harsh.
Well,
Uh,
I don't think you're being harsh, but I think, uh, in the Cubano Hispanic world, families tend to be very close.
well, that's true. That's true.
But one of the things you find, I think, in a lot of families, and we have it in our family, there are some subjects that can't be brought up. So you may have, a family dinner or lunch, and you talk, or a conversation, and you talk about a lot of things, but you can't talk about politics because it's going to start a fight. And this is something that I think is unfortunate.
Yes.
There's a lot of talk about, well, blame the parents. Doggone it, it's the parents. They should have been there. They should have done that. There's a point at which you can't go.
Right. Right.
You're dealing with somebody else who may be an adult, but is thinking like a child,
Mm-hmm.
who may, be middle aged, but they are truly uh, irresponsible
Right.
and immature
Right.
because they
And
this
yeah,
thing.
you're
Their
right.
peers, the friends they choose, are people, or they're in a position, they're in a job where everything around them is pushing one way. How many kids have you heard interviewed by conservative columnists who are, or broadcasters who are conservative kids, and they say, "Oh, I go into this guy's class. I have to write that essay like I was a communist. Otherwise, I'm not going to pass."
Right.
But some of them are writing the essay thinking, hey, this guy's a teacher. He should know what he does. He
Right.
should know the truth. And that becomes the problem. That's how they get radicalized. In many cases, they radicalize themselves.
Right. It's, for example, it reminds me during when we had those riots a few years ago with George Floyd.
Yes.
One of the funniest scenes on TV was this black police officer standing firm, defending
Mhm.
something, and this young white woman yelling at him about oppression.
Yes.
And this young white woman who is probably wouldn't even understand oppression if you spelled it for her, was all of a sudden, preaching and using these words. And that's something else too that worries me a lot about some of these young peoples when they hear a word like Gestapo, they go, oh my gosh, Trump wants to turn the country into a dictatorship or something like that.
Yeah.
And 99% of the people who hear that just laugh it off or turn off the TV. But I'm worried about that small group that takes it seriously and decides they're going to go out and do something about it, Frank, like this
Right.
guy in Dallas or the guy who shot Charlie Kirk or whatever. That the part that worries me. And I'm not sure what we can do. Like you were saying, there are limits to what parents can do. There are limits to what family can do. I think a lot of times many people say, okay, I can't do any more for you.
Yes.
Kind of attitude.
Yes.
And I understand that because at some point you got to let go,
Right.
especially children. You got to let them go and live their own life. Doesn't mean you don't care about them, but it's like they got to experience.
Well, and if you want to have a relationship on any level,
right,
there are just subjects you avoid.
That's true. That's true.
What
I'm
you were
trying to
just
think-
saying, by the way, if I could just
Yeah.
interject, reminds me of a very funny story.
Yeah. Right.
Years ago in the 1970s at the University of Pennsylvania, you can imagine the socialists, we are going to save the world types.
Right.
Well, there were a bunch of guys, construction workers, who were digging up the sidewalk and, I don't know, rerouting wires or sewers or water or something like that. And a bunch of these kids who were protesting somewhere else came up and said, "We're with you guys. We understand what you're going through. We know that you're not getting paid enough. We know you're in, your social pain." And the guy said, "What the hell are you talking about?" And they chased them down the street.
I know, that's funny. But I bet that's how that police officer felt.
Yes.
When that young white woman was yelling at him, and I'm watching this on TV, and I laughed a little bit because I said, she looked like a young white girl that came from some nice upper middle class suburb who was radicalized at the university to believe that the whole world was oppressors and victims.
Yes, yes.
And at that moment, the guy in the uniform was an oppressor. That's just the only thing that she understood. So I'm not trying to sound pessimistic because I'm usually optimistic, and I'm always optimistic. But I am concerned that we may see more of this in the future, more of these shootings. They're called lone wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's true because they act by themselves. But there's a society out there of somebody is promoting these lone wolves. And that's what worries me. I think the FBI has to take a very close look at who's radicalizing these young people.
Yes. But, don't forget, too, in terms of a broad social let's say, prospect on this, one of the really things that really annoys me, and it's true, who do people listen to?
Right.
A lot of the time, who do these kids idolize? Taylor Swift, movie stars, rock singers, bebops, or what do you call it? Hip hop.
Yeah, whatever.
Showing my age. And they're all, not all, but for the most part, they're talking this line. And hey, these are successful people. These are people I want to be like. Boy, right. I wish I was in that position. And they're part of the problem. They're leading people into it. And they don't care because, as we mentioned before, they have enough money that they are bulletproof from all this stuff.
Right. No, that's it. They live in their own world and they get protection all the time. It's like, when I hear about, you always hear about these people who are going to leave the country. If first it was Bush being elected and now it's Trump being elected, and they never do.
Right.
And they never do, because I guarantee you that when someone says, hey, we're going to leave the country and go to Canada, and then when they get to Canada, they tell them, well, you know what, you're going to lose your private doctor or something like that. Then they go, oh, well, I think I'll stay in California,
Exactly.
Or something. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating. I don't mean to be critical of Canadians, but that's, and I think a lot of these people live in this idea that, I'm going to go to another country. I'm going to go to Europe because they have free medicine and they have free this.
Yes. Yes.
And then they get the tax bill and they go, wait a minute. Why do you pay 50% taxes or whatever? So So I'm optimistic always, Frank, but I'm fearful that there may be more of these radicals out there, and I'm not sure how to stop them. I think a lot of it is family. I think family members need to keep a better eye on these people. And I'm going back to the example of Nashville before we go. In Nashville, the mom knew that this young woman had a lot of problems, and the mom knew that she had guns in her house. And the mom at one point was even concerned that the young woman could kill herself. And I remember the police chief later was saying, if she had called us, the mom that is,
Yes.
we would have visited the house, and we would have at least, been keeping an eye on this person.
Yes.
And I mean, that's not a perfect system either.
No.
But the same thing happened down here in Uvalde, Texas. Remember that shooting down
Yes.
here at the school? The young
Absolutely.
man who did this was so out of control, Frank, that he had like a little tag on his forehead saying, please stop me before I do something wrong. I mean, he had all the behavior of a young man who was going to do something stupid, including sending pictures of dead cats to girls in school.
Yeah.
I don't have a daughter, but I guarantee you, my brother has a daughter. I guarantee you, my sister has 4 of them. And I guarantee you that if one of those girls had gotten a picture on her iPhone from a guy of a dead cat, my brother would have been at that house in 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Saying, what are you doing sending my daughter a picture of a dead cat?
Yeah.
Or my brother-in-law would have done that. So that's the kind of parental, if I could put it, intervention. I'm not saying it prevents everything, but I feel a little bit like it could have, a little bit more of that. Also a sense of community. I don't think we have a sense of community that much.
No.
And you have joked sometimes about your neighborhood growing up and how everybody kind of knew each other and all of that.
Yes.
And maybe in a small town they do, but certainly not in a big city. I mean, there are people living in apartment buildings who don't even know the names of their neighbors.
Yeah. And you're absolutely right, Silvio. If we have a minute, there's one other point I'd like to bring up that I think may be kind of like in the background pushing this forward. And that is technology.
Yes.
Because and I'm not just talking about, cell phones and video games or whatever, but I'm talking about the fact that every day we're hearing more and more about how our world is going to be disrupted. In business, disruption, as they call it, is considered a great virtue. Oh, I'm going to disrupt this industry. Well, that's great, unless you're down a little bit lower. If you were a middle manager or below that, you're going to lose your job.
That's right.
And you have this constant threat. So you're a young person here, and most young people now, from what I understand, do not want to own their own home. Our younger son, doesn't want to own a house.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just the fact that he's never been interested in doing things with his hands and the kind of things, where you'd fix up a house. But he's living in Chicago.
Right.
And the cost of the house would be beyond anything he could hope to achieve in the immediate future.
Right.
Unless he wins the lottery. But
and then he probably wouldn't stay in Chicago.
Right. And you have all of this kind of stuff.
Right.
And it's telling you before you begin, you're a loser.
Right.
Because no matter what you're going to do, hey, Mr. AI is going to come along and change it all, and it'll be gone. And you see it happening every day.
Right. No, I agree. I think there's a lot of stuff like that going on. My biggest worry, of course, is not to repeat myself, but the radicalization of some of these young men and who's out there planning the next one.
Yes.
Because when you have incidents like this and we talk so much about the shooter, well, that makes him a hero in the wrong places.
Right. And it makes him a martyr.
That's right. And when you're living in that world, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to become a martyr. You want to be remembered, as the guy who took out Charlie Kirk because you saved country by doing that. Well,
And
he didn't. He didn't save the country, but I mean, that's what he thinks.
well, you literally had parades by Black Lives Matter and Antifa screaming anti-Charlie Kirk stuff
In New
about
York, I think it was,
whether
right?
he was dead. Yes, yes. And you have those people who go down to the ICE headquarters or whatever, or station, and including politicians, and they elected leaders, and they're telling them about how bad these people are. And it makes no sense, but it's like Trump derangement syndrome. It really makes no sense to a sane person,
Right.
but to someone else makes all the sense in the
And
world.
it only takes one, as we saw in Dallas and with Charlie Kirk. It just takes one.
Yeah.
It just takes one person to be at the right place at the right time and take the shot.
Yes.
And that one shot can have such an impact, as we just saw in Dallas, or
As we
Charlie
saw
Kirk.
with Trump, as we saw in Pennsylvania.
In the case of Trump, look how close we came to killing
Yeah.
Trump that day. I mean, if you just think about it.
Abraham Lincoln once said, anyone can exchange their life for mine.
Yes.
He was very much aware of that.
Absolutely. Well, Frank, I want to thank you as always so much for your time.
Oh.
Have a wonderful weekend, and wish us a little autumn down here if you can.
I certainly would.
Yeah, send us a little fall weather.
Well, when we get some, I'll
I'll
send it on now.
Blow some of that down here. I remember those days in Wisconsin in the autumn. Honestly, I thought they were beautiful.
Yes.
The change in the colors and all of that, I thought that was absolutely beautiful.
I would never give that up.
No, it's beautiful. It is beautiful. No question about it. But thank you for your time, Frank. And as always, it's a great honor to chat with you.
Likewise. And to you in the audience, God bless, hang tight, and say a prayer for our country and for all of those who are considering something irrational.
That's it. That's it. And well, I'm sure we'll plan our next get together. Thanksgiving is probably a good idea.
That sounds
maybe good. Halloween, something like that.
Might be very appropriate this year.
Yes, that's it. Well, have a great day, Frank. Thank you so much.
You too, Silvio.
All right. Our good friend, Frank Burke up in Wisconsin, always enjoyed chatting with him a little bit about a lot of different things. And today, of course, about what I think is the radicalization of these young men. Something is going on. Either somebody is radicalizing them, or whether it's whatever it is, it's a very dangerous thing for the country, because you don't need many of these people to do the harm that we have seen. Thank you for listening. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.